Welcome to the Secrets of Personal Injury Law with Colin Bober.
Hello and welcome to the Secrets of Personal Injury Law with Colin Bober. Colin is a personal injury attorney who has represented over 4,000 clients with a gross settlement recovery of over $50 million. I am your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and today we're going to talk about the costly mistakes of trying to go through this injury claim process alone. Colin, welcome back.
Happy to be here. Thanks.
So we've talked about this before. Don't go at it alone. That's something that a lot of lawyers will say. Maybe there's a lot of people out there who think that it's just because they're lawyers that they're saying that. Are there any situations where you'll tell somebody, you don't need a lawyer for this. You can do this on your own?
Sure. You just have to find a lawyer like me who's willing to give you candid advice. Like, if the only reason that somebody in my office should represent somebody is if they need it. So if your biggest complaint is, I'm working with the insurance company, I don't know what to say about my car, I don't know what to do, it's in a lot, what are my options? You don't need an attorney for that, you just need advice, right? So you just have to be willing to, my advice would just be call around to attorneys that you feel comfortable with and say, would you mind just walking me through it? Because I'd prefer it. The only reason I do what I do is I genuinely want to help. I'm not trying to get money from everybody that I talk to. And as long as you can articulate what these people need to do, they're really grateful and they may come back to you in the future if they really need you. But you shouldn't represent people who don't need your services.
So in what situations would you say, like, can you give me an example of when someone might come in and you're like, you know what, honestly, I don't think you need representation?
A previous podcast, I had mentioned to you that we had just gotten a client and the insurance company had evaluated whatever information they had. I don't even know how they got it. Okay. But what I assume is that before representation, the client had a phone call with the quick response team, which is what they do. After you get in an accident, they'll call you and say, hey, we know we're at fault or whatever. We're willing to offer you X $1,000 right now if you want to take it. That's what they do, because they don't want you to hire an attorney. They just want to get the claim out and indemnify their insured and be good, which is what they did in this case. They offered her, a little over $10,000 and said, do you want to take it? And she did. She wanted to take it. That's her option. But the problem is, we told her you may not want to take it because we found out that her bill for the hospital alone was nearly $20,000. So how do you pay a $20,000 bill with a $10,000 settlement? Right? Which is why you may not want to do that, is because you don't know what your injuries are going to be on day 2. You don't know what your bills are going to be on day 2. From the hospital, if you go, you could have an ambulance bill, a facility bill, an ER physician bill, a radiology bill. You can have a bunch of bills and you're not going to get them via FedEx. I mean, I know that hospitals want to get paid ASAP, but they don't FedEx bills. I can guarantee that. So that's why you may not need an attorney per se for representation, but you may want to talk to one to make sure that you're covering all your bases. Because if they don't go to the hospital and say, yeah, the insurance company called and they offered me, $5,000 and they'll pay for a couple visits to a physical therapy just to get some treatment, I feel fine, I'm good. By all means, take it. If that's how you feel and you genuinely believe you don't need representation and you believe that settlement is in your best interest, go forth and conquer. That is the right thing to do. If you're skeptical about it, that's when you should at least consult with an attorney, whether you retain one or not. And every attorney that you talk to should be willing to give you a free consultation. If they don't, then you should seek alternate services somewhere else.
Yeah, that's a good point, because you've talked before about the personal injury attorneys who talk about the $6 million settlement or on the billboards with all the numbers and the big fancy numbers that they get and stuff like that. But you don't necessarily, just because you don't necessarily need to hire a lawyer. Sometimes you just need the advice. Sometimes you just need the consultation.
Sure. And there's nothing stopping you from calling an attorney's office and asking for a free consultation. And then you can decide. And like you said, based on the information you give me, I'll be like, here are some aspects that can be really complex, whether it's related to health insurance if they were involved, because they're going to try and get paid back, Medicaid, TRICARE, Medicare, whether there's child support involved, that's another thing you got to wrangle. So there are intricacies of the case that I'm going to ask you and say, okay, these are kind of, they're not complex, but they'd be a pain in the butt for you.
Right.
So I'd be happy to help. But if you got it, if you're going to do it yourself, here's what you need to do. And I've done that on several occasions.
How far have you ever seen someone take it on their own, like to trial?
No.
Okay. I was just curious. Because that would be interesting.
You know what? Some people do. People are a lot smarter than others give them credit for, because I've seen people draft their own petitions, go through their own depositions. People who are really tenacious and are willing to, do the research and try their best, I encourage it. Right. The one thing that you don't want, and people should not be afraid of lawyers. They should not be afraid of insurance companies. It's all just a fake power grab. Okay. We're just regular people like, average Joe. We just speak a different language because only the person we're talking to on the other side understands that same language.
Yeah. Good point.
Right. But all we do behind the curtain is pick up the phone and be like, yo, dude, you want to get this thing done or not? I mean, it's so informal, and there's nothing, but that's all you have to remember is that everybody's a human being. This adjuster's only being ridiculous with your offer because that's the only authority that they were given from somebody who works above them. Right. There is a human aspect to it. They make some ridiculous arguments that you're like, did you really just say that out loud? Like that happens. That 100% happens. But the reality of it, everybody's human, and it's just talking to get it resolved. The rest of it's just like, I wish my career, you ever seen that television show Suits? Because I wish my career had been like that.
Yeah.
It's not. And I'm so disappointed.
I can tell. Yeah. I mean, the other thing too, like with that is you think about going at it alone. Like you said, if they have the tenacity, if they have the, the gumption to go and do it, you encourage that. But I always look at that kind of stuff with what's my time worth? Because it would take me so much longer to figure things out than it will for you. So like, what is my time worth in that scenario? I don't want to have to learn the ins and outs and the intricacies of personal injury law. I'd rather just have Colin Bober take care of it. Yeah.
And I'd be happy to help. But I want people to feel like too, that you're not obligated to get an attorney.
Right. Yeah.
You should shop around to make sure that one talks to you in a human manner and makes you feel comfortable, because if I call you, if Kevin, you call me and you're like, dude, I was in an accident and I need some representation, and I just spew a bunch of Latin and legalese at you. So if I'm talking to you with the bravado and trying to come off to you as I'm the biggest or the best PI attorney, that doesn't help you. The only thing that helps you if I give it to you in plain English, right?
Because you recognize how dumb I am. That's good.
Well, I have my moments too, Kevin. So I'm not perfect either. Ask my mother. Yeah. So, but that's what you're looking for. You're not looking for the person who's going to tell you, I'm going to go get you $1 million because they're probably not telling you this is only a $30,000 policy, right? Yeah. Your case may be worth $1 million, but are you actually going to get the $1 million? So you have to know to ask those questions, and you have to find an attorney. It doesn't even have to be me. I wish it was me. But if it's not me, you have to have that ability to have that candid conversation with your lawyer, because if you can't, then they're probably not advocating for you as well as they should either.
Good point. And you've talked before about how you piece together accidents and getting camera footage. And I mean, I think we've talked about accident reconstruction specialists or something like that, right? I mean, like, I don't even know how you would go about doing that. I don't know how I would go about doing that on my own. Like, I don't even know where to look. Do I just Google accident reconstruction specialist and hire them? I mean, how does that work?
You absolutely. You can. That's pretty much what attorneys do, but we know which questions to ask. For instance, as a consumer, you've been in an accident and you want as much compensation as possible because when you sign out on the dotted line, it's over. Right. So when you go to your attorney, you say, I want $1 million. And if that attorney comes to you and says, cool, but you're only going to get 30, right? You know if you know to ask, if you want $1 million, you also know to ask, what's the likelihood that I'm actually going to get it?
Right.
Based on your conversation with me. Right. So based on our experience in the industry, experts, biomechanical engineers, reconstructionists, whatever, we know what questions to ask. You're billing me this amount of money, but is your report going to include X, Y, and Z? Because if it doesn't, I need to go find somebody else. So that's the benefit of having an attorney, is finding somebody you're confident that knows to ask the right questions. And not only ask the right questions, but give you the correct answer.
I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not, or I'm not trying to make anyone think that I'm trying to be salesy here for your services. But I mean, does an insurance company change their way when there's not an attorney involved? As in, like, will they, if I'm somebody who's just like, yeah, I'm just taking care of this myself, do they go, okay, cool, easy mark?
Some adjusters are people too. You have some good ones, you have some bad ones. I have a list of people that I'm sure they see my number pop up and they're like, God, not him again, you know?
Oh, Bober.
Yeah, like not him because, but it's because it's probably because, like I said, you want an attorney that's going to talk candidly with you,
Right.
and an attorney that's willing to talk candidly with you is also going to talk very candidly with an adjuster. So if you tell me as an adjuster that you're not going to consider my client's MRI because the MRI was unremarkable, I'm going to look at you sideways and say, well, how would you know that the MRI was remarkable if you didn't do the diagnostic test to find out, right? So it depends on how they approach you. Some of the adjusters have been in the industry so long where they're like, look, dude, this is all the money I got. I considered everything you put on the table. This is all the money that they've given me. That's all I can offer you. Do you want to take it or no? And those are the best because you know that they're just giving you what they have.
Yeah, they're giving you the information and
right?
yeah.
But the ones that are saying to you, well, I think we acknowledge that we hit your insurer or your client, but we don't think that it's reasonable for him to go to the hospital. I don't care what you think because he did, and he wouldn't have if it hadn't been for your negligent insurer. So heads up, we sued that guy and got the policy limit, but guess what? It was only $30,000.
Right.
Right. So that's the reality of the situation. You want somebody who can guide you through the process and also manage your expectations based on the information that's available.
Do you think, like, because you've talked many times about how people overvalue or think that their case is going to be worth so much, or even if it is, don't realize that the policies, they're limited by the policy numbers and all that. Is it the advertisements? Is it what they see on TV and stuff like that? Is that why people have these ideas like, oh, I got hit, I'm going to get millions for this? Like, is it like I don't know. Why are people so have such a misconception when it comes to that, do you think?
Because they don't tell them.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. I'm not going to name any names, but the purpose of that advertising is to acquire as many clients as you can. It's because then it goes from a quality enterprise to a volume enterprise, right? So you're going to have attorneys, they may be on a quota at their law firm and say, hey, you work here as an attorney, you got to settle X number of cases per month, and you got to settle them for this amount of money. And that becomes your job to make sure that you meet your quota to keep your job. Does that mean that you are handling cases inappropriately? No, but it also doesn't give a client confidence with the notion that they are a number in your system to meet your quota and not their best interest, right? So that advertising is designed, in my opinion, to facilitate the mass migration of cases to big law firms for the purpose of generating profit rather than for the benefit of the client.
Yeah, it's a numbers game. The more people you get in your door, the more clients you're going to get. The more potential clients you have walking into your office, the more clients you're going to get.
And I say that in full transparency because I worked for 2 bigger law firms before I went on my own. That's exactly how it was set up. But I also knew that if the offer wasn't a good offer, I was going to tell my client it was a bad offer not to take it. That's my duty as an attorney. But that's one thing you have to be mindful of when you're searching for an attorney. If you want to go for the guy on TV doing whatever he's doing, man or woman, ask them, are your attorneys on a quota? Because if they are, you're a number. Does that mean?
Do you think they'd be honest?
They should, because that's one question I would ask them before you sign. Because if somebody tells me that, yeah, my attorneys are on a quota system, I'm not going there because that shows me that I'm a part of a quota. I'm a number, right? But if they say no, now just because they're on a quota, like I said, doesn't mean that they're doing anything nefarious.
Yeah, that's not to mean they're bad attorneys or anything.
Right. It just doesn't present itself as an inference of, yeah, sure, they're fighting for my best interest, right? And it's a question nobody in the industry knows to ask. Nobody wants anybody to know. But guess what? I'm not on a quota. Nobody over here is on a quota because you have to do what's in the client's best interest all the time, whether it's financially feasible for the firm or not.
Any other tips for someone looking for an attorney as to what they should ask to find good quality representation?
Yeah, you want to know too if the law firm actually litigates their cases.
Okay.
Because the high volume firms that we just described don't always litigate their own cases. They refer them out to other attorneys.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So they'll go for the settlement. If they can't get to the settlement, they'll refer them out.
Right. Because like I said, that's where the quota comes in, because they're looking for the low hanging fruit. If they have to expend the money up front to litigate the case, they don't want that, but somebody else does. Right. And they have to disclose that they're referring it out and the client has to sign off on it. So again, nothing nefarious at all. But the point is that how are you going to tell me as my attorney that you're my advocate, but then when things get hard, you're going to refer me out to somebody else?
Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
Right. So you would have to ask, and that's what I'm saying is the volume is for the volume, not necessarily the quality of the service.
Wow. That's great tips. Great tips as always, Colin. And thank you for tuning into the Secrets of Personal Injury Law with Colin Bober. To connect with Colin and his team, visit boberlawfirm.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Colin, great to see you again. Really, really appreciate all that great insight.
Looking forward to the next one, Kevin.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.